Well, Uncle Rudy needs a new clutch. It chatters really bad, and I hope it's just a disc. We'll see. We're going to tackle it. We got her jacked up on stands, and we're about to take the shackles out. All right, what we found for openers is there's some very rusty cotter pins in the shackles and holding the nuts on. So we're going to fight that for a while. Okay, we're using the little portable spring spreader here, and it fits in there okay. The nut, you don't have a lot of clearance here, but it's okay. You can turn the nut. And I got the threads greased up pretty good, and they're heavily loaded. We'll see if we can get that shackle out of there. All right, spring spreader worked. We're trying to back it off now, and there isn't a whole lot of room right in there. So I guess this is not a bad spring spreader. We got to figure out a better way of turning that nut. It fits in there pretty good. I guess I'm a believer in this spreader. We'll see how it goes back together. But it takes it out pretty good. We found a broken shackle. I don't know what was keeping this car together, but we got her out. Okay, we got fooled. His shock, which doesn't have much shock left in it, which is a funny looking shock. It was holding the axle up, and we didn't have any room there. Now,
well, hopefully somebody designed this and they knew the clearance.
Yeah, now we got plenty of room. We're just hoping the spring spreader is short enough to be able to get it out. Big problem with the spring spreader, it's too long. We can't get it out with the spring relaxed. So we put a block of wood under here and put the weight of the car on it, spread the spring. Now he's trying to pry it off that nut. It's just sitting on a bolt head. All right, we got that thing. It's about a ½ inch too long. I don't know if I want to cut down Herb's new part, but we got it out anyway, and that means we can probably get it back. Okay, we've run into big problems. This car hasn't been taken apart for 65 years, and the big bolt that holds the radius arm to the rear radius arms in the front to the transmission absolutely can't go out. We've got this wrench on it with a jack coming up, huge torque on it, and we were on the other side just now, and we broke a socket trying to get it off, so we're going to heat now. Oh, here's the socket. Yeah, broke good, 7/8. And so we'll try it again tomorrow. And we couldn't get the shackle out here, so we took the backing plate off, and that was a chore. I don't think that's been off for who knows how long. And here's the shackle. We cut it, and we thought this was the part that was stuck, and it wasn't. When we cut that, this came right out, and we used a drift and got the other part out, and the perch is worn pretty good, so we're going to put bushings in it, assuming we can get the old ones out. So an old job is eating us up because she's 65 years old, and none of this has been taken apart. So every little thing we face is eating us up. Well, folks, it turns out we didn't have to get that big bolt loose, but we did finally loosen it after heat and all kinds of moaning and groaning. But in the process of doing it, we pushed the rear end out, and it came out of engagement of the U-joint, and now we're going to attack the transmission, see if we can get that baby to drop down. Okay, we got the transmission dropped away, and we're going to take the pressure plate off now. You got just 1 or 2 more screws.
Give some of this off, buddy.
This is what we were looking for, and it's worn pretty good. Not really evenly worn. There's still a lot of material. We sure hope this is what the problem was. Kind of hard to see, isn't it? And there's the new one we're going to put in. And it's hard to see too. Yeah, okay. Well, this is a pressure plate. We got to clean it up. And we found the throwout bearing needs to be replaced. That'll be fun. And what else do we have here for Uncle Rudy? You can't see it, but that's the flywheel, and we got to clean that up. There you are. And somehow we got it all out. And we'll get the new parts and put her back together. Pilot bearing is okay. Okay, we got the transmission out. We ordered a new throwout bearing, but we didn't get it. Maybe we didn't order it. And more I feel this one, I like it. So we're going to leave it in. That'll save us a little time and money. Got the spring in there, got it greased up. This was bound up on that shaft, so I hope that was the source of our chattering along with the old disc. And we miss you, Ernie. Ernie stopped by the other day. Frank's college roommate forever, and he wanted to go to the beach and have fun at Hilton Head, and we put him to work, and he crawled under the car, was under there 7 hours. Never did get to the beach. So Ernie, thanks a lot, and we miss you. Okay, by magic, we got the clutch disc in there centered, and we're gonna tighten the pressure plate down and see if we can stab the transmission in there. Well, we got the thing stabbed in, and it absolutely ate us up. But we got that baby in, and he's got the top bolt going in. That's tight enough, Frank. We'll put the others in, and this is the end of our day. We're just not strong enough for this stuff anymore. I did this by myself years ago, and now Frank and I damn near killed ourselves getting that transmission up in there. So we got it in, and we'll put those other bolts in later and start putting her together. Okay, when I was young, I could just horse that transmission into the spline without a hole. Well, it was troublesome, but I could do it. Now this, at the present, there's no way we could do that. So we stabbed the spline in the transmission, in the clutch disc, through the pressure plate, and we held the transmission up with a small jack. Then once we got it to that point, we took a piece of material like this. This is old seatbelt material, but you could use those tie-down straps with a ratchet, and we put it from the lower hinge on the left door to the lower hinge on the right door, looped it under the transmission and as a sling, and we could rock the transmission and push it forward and pop it in the spline. And that worked quite well. It also worked for getting the torque tube spline into the U-joint. So that's one way of making a tough job a little bit easier. Use a strap between the hinges to support it. All right, we got the pedals on and the clutch somewhat adjusted. It's pretty close to being okay. Seems to function all right. And we got the turns out 3 of the bushings were good enough for this old car, and the bushing and the spring on the other side, the worn out bushing came out in my hands in 2 pieces, and I was able with a hammer to pound the new one in, so it really went in easy. So our shackle bushing seemed to be okay, and the shackles fit. So now we'll stab in the spline of the torque tube. Okay, we got her stabbed in there, we think. Had to do it twice because I forgot to put that ring on. So, but the second time was a lot easier. And again, I used that seatbelt strap across the bottom of it to help us lift it. Okay, here's what we've done. We've stabbed the spline in at the front of the torque tube, got off a little, all those clamshells put together and got grease in it. And then we fought these shackles. And right now, we got that one basically in, and we're quitting, and Frank can tighten it up later. But the spring it's kind of sprung. It wants to go that way, so it didn't want to line up. And my comments on our friendly short spring spreader is absolutely terrible. I had to cut a 3/4 of an inch off because it's too long to get in there to start spreading the spring. And it ate us alive. But once we cut it off, oh, and we put 300 pounds of what? Barbells in the right rear corner of this car to try and spread that spring out on a 2x4, and that helped. And then we had to do that to get the spring spreader in. And we got it in, and we haven't taken it out yet, but I'm sure it'll come out now. But it's hard to turn. Okay, this is the problem we found. This blue part here is part of the spring spreader, and that little knobby out there captures the spring. It's on both sides, and you can see how it touches the shackle. And when we were putting the shackle in, it interfered, so I had to grind a little bit off the shackle to get it in. Now my intention is to grind a little bit of that tit off of there so it doesn't interfere, and it's true on both sides. So just a little design alteration there. Okay, just to show you the spring spreader just before we take it out for the last time, you can see that edge that captures the spring, and we're going to grind a little bit of that off. And when we first put it in, spread the spring, as the spring relaxed, it was too long here. And we couldn't get this thing out of here, so we had to fight and spread the spring somehow with weight and pulling it down and everything. So we've taken 3/4 of an inch off of this, the end of this tube, and I think that's all that's needed. So we think it's a usable thing, or it will be when we finish modifying it a little bit, but nothing like the big spring spreader, believe me. That I thought this would be a lot easier, but I'd rather have me a big spring spreader in there. Now it's a matter of getting things back together, and we've got a mess, as you can imagine. We've got screws, and we got the brake cross shaft back in, and I'm convinced that the cotter keys we took out were factory, because whoever takes the cross shaft out. Everything else looks pretty good. We got a lot of little pieces to put on. Like I said, most screws and nuts and bolts on this car haven't been touched in 65 years or more. And here we're trying to put new brake rod springs on, and we can't even get the clevises off, so we're working on it. Okay, well, this fun never ends. We had to pull this brake drum off and free up the emergency brake shaft. It wouldn't turn. Now it turns, and it looks like they did a brake job somewhere along the way, so we're going to put it back together and slowly get that stuff on. The brake rods are tough, and we got new springs for them, so we're getting there. Okay, we got the brake rods pretty much set on this side, and this is the first wheel we're able to put on, make it a little bit safer. And what have we done? We got the clutch in. Let's see, in here. Here's the light. We got that put together. Parking brake, emergency brake, and the interesting thing is she going to shudder when we let the clutch out? Hope it doesn't. Okay, we've been fighting his exhaust pipe, but we got her in there, put the red silicone in. I think we're okay. Got a hanger on the back. Putting the battery in now, maybe try and start it in a minute. Okay, this is our first try with the clutch. Only going to back it up a little bit, and if it shudders, Frank and I are going to shoot ourselves. Let's see. Pretty smooth. We're happy. we just took her for a ride. She's doing great. We got an exhaust leak. Little tick down there. That's probably that connection of the muffler to the manifold. But it still likes to lug. I'll go down to idle here. And then give it a little bit of gas and listen to that. My Model A won't do that. Uncle Rudy rides again.